What is it that has enabled humans to outcompete every other species on the planet? Was it our ability to walk long distances? Was it our ability to build tools? I don't think so. I think it was our ability to build upon one another's efforts, our ability to collaborate and coordinate. Groups that make use of a process, whether that improves their ability to collaborate, whether that comes from a change in biology or technology or organizational structure, they gain a collaborative advantage. They gain a competitive edge. That collaborative advantage, an early example would have been something like the ability to point and grunt. Go that way. That helped us hunt animals in groups, right? Another collaborative advantage would have been when our brains evolved to be able to recognize faces and track reputations. That enabled us to figure out which hunter we wanted to go on that hunt with, and which member of the tribe was maybe not that reliable, not a great hunter, or just plain stupid. This facial recognition and ability to track reputations served as the underlying piece of our regulatory system way back when we lived in villages, when we lived in small groups. We didn't have cops. We didn't have courts. We had cultural norms, expected ways of living, and we had reputation. Right? The other people's ability to track whether or not we were living in that way. If you stole something in that kind of community, you had real risk. Nobody would do business with you in the future. Maybe nobody would let you date their daughter. That regulatory system, that reputation-based system, was really effective because nobody wanted to lose status and become persona non grata. It was very efficient because you didn't have to hire lawyers. And it was really adaptive because if circumstances changed, our expectations about what is appropriate could change as well. However, it was not very good at scaling. That system depended on our ability to keep track of these people. And our brains are good at that up until about 150 people. You get too far beyond that, and suddenly strangers show up, and they can take advantage of you, and tomorrow nobody's going to know that they took advantage of you today. The result was that during the period where we were dependent almost entirely on our innate regulatory system, this reputation system, tribes only got up to about 150 people, and if they got much bigger than that, people started behaving badly, and they would split up. Eventually, maybe they would war against one another. Right? We had other collaborative advantage technologies, things that assisted us in coordinating and collaborating, that evolved over time. Higher forms of language enabled us to coordinate, to share information that was more complex. Writing enabled us to share that information over time and at a distance. Written contracts were able to put into writing what we had agreed to. And later, if there was a dispute about it, we could say, no, this is what you agreed to. Courts and made us a third party able to enforce those agreements. Right? And each of these innovations ended up enabling us to coordinate at larger scales. Many of them by centralizing decision-making, maybe within the court, for instance. But nonetheless, they enabled us to live within larger groups, and because we were in larger groups, we gained the advantages of scale. We were able to learn from one another, to innovate, etc. Today, we've seen advantages beyond writing, printing, telegraph, telephone, radio, TV, internet, right? And on the internet, we've seen things like online reputation systems, online ratings systems. You guys have all used eBay or Amazon. How many of you have used Airbnb? Right? These ratings systems enable us to have transactions at really large scale. There are millions of people transacting on those systems. And they work really well. Do they work well because we're worried about getting sued? No. Nobody's going to sue you for the $50 pair of shoes that you didn't send on time. It's too expensive. But they might leave you a bad review, and because they'll leave you a bad review, you actually send the shoes on time. However, this system is fairly dependent on the fact that the members of that community share an agreement about what counts as good behavior in that context. For eBay, what is it? Send what you said you were going to send. Send it right away. Pay on time. Right? Communicate well. Everybody agrees that that is what qualifies as good behavior in that context. And so as a result, we all agree about what 5 stars means. What's the next step in helping foster collaboration? I mean, that one is unleashing essentially the sharing economy, right? We're starting to share assets like homes, cars, even cooking in one another's homes. The next layer is going to look something like connecting all of this information up. But the wrinkle is we don't all agree about what's appropriate. We don't agree about who to trust or what counts as good behavior. We're just at the beginning, and we've had some speakers today talk about this. We're just at the beginning of an era where the information that's available to us on the internet is starting to be connected up. Things on Facebook, things in Wikipedia, things on Yelp, things in Airbnb, all being connected, people being able to access that information and combine it and remix it and share it and make it more useful to you. Going through and finding all those pieces yourself, well, that's a lot of effort. But if somebody else does that and you can piggyback on their efforts, well, that makes this really usable. That makes you able to benefit from the collective wisdom of the community around you. There are people today who see this and they say, yes, we're going to connect up all of the information. And soon we will have everyone capable of tapping into the combined wisdom of all of humanity. Right? We will all be filmed at all times. We will watch the watchers, and it will be great. No one will misbehave. That doesn't sound like a very good future to me. That transparent society vision is the vision of a surveillance society. And I think that it fundamentally misunderstands the value of privacy and the role that privacy plays in a community. I was at a meeting with the leadership of one of the world's largest insurance companies a month or so ago. Those people are really excited about seeing everything about you. Privacy isn't just about shame, and it's not just about taboos. Privacy is about control over how broadly information is going to get distributed. It's about being able to control with whom we want to share this insight, with whom we want to create this thing. Privacy doesn't have to be perfect, but if our expectations about how far something I say or do is going to go, if those are consistently violated, I will stop saying and doing those things. Privacy gives us a safe space within which we can take risks, we can communicate, we can collaborate, we can try things, we can innovate. I'm not going to be able to invest a significant amount of time into pursuing some idea if I know that everyone else in the world can just see everything I'm doing, and as I'm doing this, others are taking it. Right? That actually gives us an incentive just to sit back and wait for others to innovate. That's not a very functional system. Privacy gives us a place, a way to experiment outside of the peering eyes of all the people around us. And when we look at the community as a whole, the result is that we end up with a much greater degree of diversity because people were able to try new things, right? They were able to share different ideas. They were able to live in ways that they might not be willing to live in front of their boss or in front of the government. If we have no privacy, if we live in a world where everything you do and everywhere you go is known by all, it's connected to everything, it's searchable, I'm not going to show up at the union meeting because I'm going to be afraid of losing my job. If we had that 150 years ago, Harriet Tubman doesn't help slaves escape to the north. The environment that we live within is not constant. It is changing. And the norms that were working in the past might not work in the future. Privacy, because it results in diversity of ideas, it gives us access to those ideas. And as circumstances change, we are able to draw upon a more diverse set of ideas and more readily adapt to a new world. So the question is, how do we balance this desire to protect and have private spheres, a well-functioning private sphere, with the possibilities, the very real and useful possibilities of connecting up all of this data? What is the right place? Where should we draw the line between private and public? I think that's actually the wrong question. I think the right question is, who gets to draw that line? And my belief is that you should. Right? This is fundamental to the way that our society functions, the way that we think about politics and economics. You empower the individual. You enable them to decide how publicly they want to show up in an interaction. You also enable others to decide how publicly they want someone else to show up. What this means, I believe, is that we will need to change the way that we publish information online. When I publish a song today, people can come and take it. Maybe they pay me for it, but then once they pay me for it, it's out there. Maybe it spreads like wildfire. Going forward, if I publish a song or code or a recipe for connecting up information, I may decide that I want you to show up not as an anonymous user, but as somebody verified by this third-party organization over here or that third-party organization over there. And you may decide that you're not willing to put that much skin in the game. The result, for me, is this. This is not something that gets decided by the government because they're not going to be able to figure it out. This is not a one-size-fits-all deal. This is something that gets decided in that individual interaction by the parties of that transaction. To make it useful, to make it usable, we're going to need to be able to piggyback on one another's efforts for creating those standards, those recipes for determining how public I want you to show up, and for you to determine how publicly you are willing to show up. So, there's a couple of options here. Do we want to live in a completely transparent world where it's all connected? Or do we want to live in a completely private world where none of it's connected? No, I think it's this place in the middle where we can connect the information, but we are empowered because we are able to speak when we want to speak. We're able to listen where we want to listen. We're able to combine and subscribe and share and remix and benefit from the wisdom of those who are willing to share with us. I invite you, if you have any role in helping create worlds along these lines, if you are involved in protocols or applications, to make sure that as you work on that stuff, you factor this in. Build it for humans. Build it for us. Thank you.